All right, we are live, rolling. What's happening, everybody? We are back live and back inside the lab. You know how it goes. Every Saturday, we're playing around with the time to see what works best. But today's live stream, we're talking about used graphics cards, RTX 3000, amongst other things, and of course, answering your questions. So feel free to drop them down in the chat anytime. But coming up for this YouTube live stream, we're going to be talking about how people are offloading their 10 and 20 series GPUs like crazy. That's because I mean, if you unless you've been hiding underneath a rock, you know Nvidia just launched and it's coming. RTX 3000 is essentially here. So how can AMD's Radeon division respond, say, with Big NAVI and RDNA 2? And what to look for if you want to buy a GPU on the secondhand market. And once again, of course, answering your questions. So let's jump into it. Yeah, tell me if you join the stream and you are here, tell me where you're from, tell me where you're watching from, tell me how your day's going, how your week's going. This is Saturday. I see Dark Super. Dark Super's in the chat. Dark Super says, "What's up? What's happening? Good to see you. Good to see you here today. I do appreciate some of our regulars coming out today and joining us on this live stream. Please feel free to share it amongst some of your friends or your community, your audience. See if we could bring any value to them because they might be shopping for a graphics card. And I tell you what, we're in a we're in a really interesting place with the GPU scene right now. We're going to talk about it. So Pleb says, what happens? What happens to the giveaway? Don't worry, I'm still going to do one. Don't worry. Be on the lookout for that. Keep those notice on, and be sure to follow me on Twitter, as I will likely host a good chunk of the giveaway over there. But yeah, Dark Super says he's from Georgia, watching from Georgia. That's what's up. I'm an Atlanta Falcon fan. I went down there when Michael Vick came back. Beautiful state. It was great, but that's awesome. Yeah, so I'm here. I'm here in Maryland. I see we got Damon's here. All right, that's what's up. Shout out to Damon Ward, fellow local content creator, is in the chat. Damon, I commented on one of your videos and I asked you. I said, hey, when you gonna take me on? When you gonna take me on an adventure, dude? I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. Pleb says that he doesn't have Twitter, Sally. That's okay. Still keep in tune here, um, as we'll likely make the announcement here on the community tab. And Dark Super says, "Wait, what giveaway?" Well, I have a GPU somewhere around here that we talked about last stream, possibly doing a community giveaway to maybe bless somebody out there in the audience who could use a upgrade in the GPU market. I just gave away here recently an RX 560 that was just laying around, and so hopefully it made that person's day much better once they received it. So Pleb says my school is in front of the Falcon Training Center. Look it up, Davis Middle School. That's awesome, man. I might have to check it out. Yeah, is that the new stadium or the old stadium? The new stadium looks super wicked, but yeah, I mean all good information. Again, if you just joined in, tell me where you're from, how's your day going, how's your week going, what's the weather like. It looks like most of us are all on the same side here in the states anyway. So yeah, say oh my gosh yes. Dark Super says OMG yes please I'm going to try so hard to win it. I mean, hey, the only way you don't have a chance to win is if you don't enter. And generally, with our giveaways, there's no barrier, there's no entry barrier. So, but yeah, all good questions or all good information, guys. Keep coming, keep bringing them. If you have any questions during the live stream, feel free to ask me at any time. I know most folks like to save them for the end, but if you're like me, you have a question you don't want to put it in your pocket. You might even forget about it. So yeah, Dark Super says, "What do you have to do to enter?" I'm Southern Notice. Notice that's good enough right there. Again, keep a lookout on the community tab. post an update about that, which will also come in the format of a video. So those of you who are sub to the channel with notifications on, you would you would have the opportunity to win. Like you would have the opportunity to be instantly notified that we're even doing a giveaway. What's the what's the GP for your giveaway? I haven't decided. I got a 1650 Super sitting back there in a box, not doing anything. Might be that. Who knows? Might be something else. Might be a RTX 2060. We'll see. We got so much to talk about with graphics card today. So much, so much. It's not the stadium. It's the trading center. Oh, okay. The training center. Nice. You know, one day I love to go out there and watch them. I know with what's going on right now with COVID, it's likely not going to be the case no time soon. But you know, I'm looking forward to when I can go out and watch the Dirty Birds practice. But football is already here. I'm a big fan of football. I do like watching football. But yeah, I mean, just keep a lookout for that giveaway. Pleb says he's got the. We know you got. We. I remember you reminded us previous live stream. You got that GT 710. You know, 720p card. You know, maybe low settings, but don't worry, bro. Don't worry. Just keep notified. Keep notified. He says RTX 2060. How did you know that's the exact GPU I'm trying to get? I guess like minds think alike, man. The RTX 2060, it's a phenomenal card. And on that subject, let's talk about used graphics cards, right? Because one of the purposes of this live stream was to give you an idea of say how I shop for used graphics cards and how I also sell used graphics cards because I do barter and trade in services here locally, doing work for businesses and end users or gamers and even other content creators. So what I look for in a used GPU, right? And this could obviously vary depending on your region, which most specifically prices could vary depending on your region. But one thing I look for is price, right? And if possible, say like if you're on eBay, the seller history, if possible. And if there's any pictures, great. But a big area, I mean, pictures usually tell the best story. And the more pictures, the better. I generally get concerned when I don't see a lot of pictures on a particular secondhand item. I mean, it's like when if you shop for a car, if you're old enough to drive in the chat, and you shop for a car, then you would know the more pictures, the better, right? That's just one more reason potentially you have to maybe pick that car or buy that car. Pleb says he uses the GeForce Now app. What do you think of the 370? The 370. What is the which graphics card are you talking about, Pleb? Help us out. The GeForce Now app though is a phenomenal app. I really use it to update the drivers, but if you can also some people use it to stream and everything, but it's Nvidia has come a long way with the GeForce Now app. But again, with photos, pictures are good. Pictures are good. The more photos, the better because photo and another thing because photos with the GPU on is even better. We talk about the good, better, best model. Well, a GPU pictures like that showing the hard and this is applicable to any hardware, CPU, motherboard, um, all the RTX 3070. Okay, yeah, don't worry. We're going to talk about the RTX 3070. Be sure to stick around. Give the stream a like if you haven't yet. It'll help us reach more people. But we're going to talk about the RTX 3070 because future spoiler alert, and then we're going to round up talking about the used market. But I think the RTX 3070 is going to be the best graphics card to come out of the Nvidia product stack, and that's not saying what's going to become of say the RTX 3050 and say the 3060 because we know they're going to come, or I'm sorry, the 3050 and the 3060 because we know they're going to come, but depending on how old the GPU is, you may also with the used GPU, what I look for a graphics card, right? Because the GPU is the processor, graphics card is the whole package. But one thing I look for is the age of the graphics card because if you watch um, the teardown of the R90 or the teardown of the R90 390 video, then you'll see that you get the thermal paste can dry up over time, and if it's a GPU that was used for mining, it most likely didn't get replaced before the seller sold it to you, which I highly suspect was my case. Then I mean, it comes with the territory of buying a used graphics card. Pleb says he's got to go. Brother has a football game, and I have to leave. I'm sorry, but I got to go. That's all good, man. I appreciate you hanging out and coming in early and engaging with us. Good luck to you, bro, on his football game. Tell him we're rooting for him, and be safe out there in Georgia, young man. Be safe. But yeah, so a graphics card with pictures in working order is a good thing. Just keep in mind, depending on the age of the graphics card, you may have to replace the thermal paste if you're comfortable with doing it. And also, you may have to change the VBIOS, right? Because mining graphics cards use a specific kind of VBIOS to run their mining to run that miners use to run their mining programs. So chances are your graphics card you'll likely get a black screen or some really erratic anomalous behavior the moment the graphics card goes to render a graphic, right? Play a game, or if you run say a benchmark like Heaven, the moment you go to hit benchmark, you might get, the little pink squares and things of that nature. So that's also something to keep in mind, right? Is it kind of weed through the seller. If they are on eBay, do they have a surplus amount of these graphics cards they're selling? Some popular mining graphics cards, say like the RX 570, the GTX 1060, the GTX 1080 Ti at one point, up to my understanding. And that's no shade to miners. I mean, you if they're available, then they are entitled to do that. It did kind of suck what it did to the graphics card market um, a while back, about a year and a half ago. But the market rebounded as it always will. So also when I'm shopping for graphics cards, right? And we're gonna jump over here to say eBay, or I'm sorry, not eBay, Craigslist, because between Craigslist and um, between Craigslist and the Facebook Marketplace, who I won't show because they they release the names of their users or what have you, and I don't want to do that. So we're going to stick to Craigslist for this example. But one thing I try to look for in any used graphics card, which I mean, you got a GTX 650 here uh, for 50 bucks. It's like a 720p card, not a bad upgrade. Say right, plebs no longer on the live stream, but this would be a maybe not. For 50 bucks, it would be a good upgrade for him. Maybe if you were rocking an APU, but more specifically, this Nvidia, this GTX 980 Ti for 200 bucks. That's actually it's actually fair market value. Of course, when RTX 3000 um, hits the market and its availability stabilizes, there's more of them available for gamers to buy. I suspect cards like the 9 series and the 10 series the used cards will be sold at a much lower price. Rumor has it that Nvidia's RDNA 2 is going to have a possible RTX 2080 Ti like competitor with a price point of between what, $200 to $300. That's amazing. That's amazing. So that makes it a little difficult to sell graphics cards like the 980 Ti, which is still to this day no slouch. It's a great entry level 1440p card, 6 gigabytes of VRAM. So I mean you have the ability to say yeah run 1440p low medium settings depending on the game, right? And then you could also still go 1080p high ultra, max settings and still have respectable frame rates. I mean, the 980 Ti is still slightly faster in most modern games than the 1650 Super, a graphics card we did a video on a few weeks back. It's still very much faster than the 1650 Super. The 1650 Super, while yeah on a newer architecture, on that Turing architecture, but the 980 Ti has 2 more gigabytes of VRAM. So that enables you to say, up your resolution from 1080p to 1440p, get more of that what we like to call eye candy. Dark Super says, so how do you think, what exactly do you have to look at before buying a used GPU? So that's a good question, Dark Super. One thing I try to look at specifically is, are there any cracks on the actual cooler shroud, right? Are there any bent fins? Like this one here is slightly bent, that will disrupt the dispersion of heat to some degree, to some extent. It's just something to note. It is an aesthetic flaw, right? So I try to look at, is there any bent pins? Are there any cracks in on the shroud, on the cooler? Are there any on the fans, right? I also look at, it's good that this seller must be an experienced seller, because having pictures of the rear IO, super, super important. Because another thing I look for, rust, right? Any type of degradation inside the input output, so your HDMI and your display port and your VGA adapters. I try to look to see if there's any defects in those areas. And this is actually a really clean GPU here by its input output. I also look at the condition of the backplate. This is actually a little dusty. I'd be concerned over the amount of dust. Dust is a component killer, right? This is something to be concerned about, because if there's dust on the top of the graphics card here, on the back plate, I wanted to bet that there's dust inside of the graphics card or the back plate. I brought a graphics card from a seller and cleaned it, and was just surprised at how much dust came out. So if there's dust on there, one thing I try to look at, how much dust is on the graphics card. What shape is it in? Are there any cracks, or is the PCB, which you really, I mean, you can see kind of the side right here, right? But I also try to check to see if the PCB is damaged or cracked. Most importantly, is it warped? Um, those, just a few of those things I try to look out for, right? And this graphics, in the this 980 Ti priced at $200. I checked earlier before we went live. That's online. That's right on par, say, um, with GTX 980 Ti's for sale on eBay. They're actually a little lower, right? But depending on where you're at, if Craigslist is available in your region, most people like to sell locally anyhow. Some people would ship, but most people like to sell locally, so you do save a little money on having to pay shipping. So I mean, that helps. But yeah, I try to look at, how honest is the seller. Like here it says, hello, I have a used in great working condition EVGA Nvidia GTX 980 Ti for the win. So most importantly, it's good that, they say it's in great working condition. It's risk versus reward, right, ladies and gentlemen? It is risk versus reward. It's like, is the risk worth the reward? There's plenty of solid price to performance in a 980 Ti, and the seller says it's in working condition. You kind of have to take their word for it. And at the end of the day, you can always ask questions too, right? If I mean, you can always message depending on the platform. This is applicable again to, say, eBay, OfferUp, Mercedes, all the all the merchant apps. You can communicate with the seller, and it's okay to ask questions. Um, as the seller says, use it for about 2 years. All games always played on high settings, never overclocked. It was one of the best GPUs I ever had. It was a great, and 980 Ti was a great graphics card, a little heavy on the power draw, but it is about a high setting, high to ultra setting graphics card. But and you could pair it with like a Ryzen 5 2600 or a Ryzen 5 3600, and it'd be a great pair for 1080p. Um, but yeah, so that's one thing I try to look for, right? And I mean, as you can see here, I saw another. Interestingly enough, I believe I saw another 980 Ti, and it was about $20 less. Oh, it's right here. Oh, and I mean, the shroud is custom, but this graphics card looks incredible, right? No dents, no cracks along the shroud. So I have a red and black 980 Ti custom VR build, just upgraded, so now it's for sale, clean and ready to go. See right here, cash and pickup only. So this is why this means it's a good price, right? So if you're in the Baltimore area and you're in need of a graphics card, go to Craigslist, right? Search. I'm in the Landenberg area, but as you can see, it's such a wide net casted. But this is $20 cheaper than the one we were just looking at. And so if I was in need of a graphics card, I would consider hitting this seller up. Although if you don't like the red, the red color scheme, the red and black color scheme, which too bad Pleb isn't here because this reminds me honestly of say like Atlanta Falcon color scheme graphics card. I know I said earlier in the stream that I'm an Atlanta Falcon fan, and this graphics card is just like screaming my team colors, which is awesome. So we got a couple new people joining the stream. Tell us down in the chat where you're watching from. How's your day going? How's your week going? Let us know if you have any questions. Also drop them down in the chat. We're talking RTX 3000 and the pros and cons of buying used graphics cards or shopping on the used graphics cards market. What I look for and what you could possibly look for when you're buying a used graphics card, or if you're interested and want to take that leap, right? Like I said, it's risk versus reward. So you're interested and you want to take that leap, you can save a lot of money, right? In my honest opinion, you can save a lot of money going with the used market. You know what I mean? You can. I it's risk versus reward. I hate to like, keep nailing it, but it truly is. I have bought several used graphics cards off the used market, and if I could, I'd knock on some wood. It's an old adage, but I would knock on some wood and would keep going. I would not regret it. The closest I got to was the R9 390 that you all saw and the teardown of the R90 390 video. Just to give you a little bit behind the scenes context in that video, I did not know that the graphics card was going to come in that condition. I tried to sell a little bit of intrigue for the video, right, to keep the mystery going because when what you see in the beginning of that video, when I'm like, you see that? That's not supposed to happen. If you haven't, I mean, if you haven't seen that video, you know what if you haven't seen that video, you wouldn't get the reference. But if you have, you definitely get the reference. But in the beginning of that video, I'm like, that's not supposed to happen, and it's like shooting up to 88 degrees C. As soon as I got it in the mail, and I put it on the test bench with our lovely X370 box, right? Shout out to Tricion. Always representing the test bed box, but I threw it on the test bed, and soon as I loaded up Heaven, and as soon as I loaded up Heaven, right, as soon as I hit render, it just shot up. The temperature shot up 88 C, and I was just like, wow, what is going on here? Even with the fans on 100%, it just kept going. I instantly knew, like, you know what, the GPU under this graphics card must be non-existent, and I braked in that video to kind of illustrate that and pointed out that that graphics card was almost ran to death, and we saved it. We saved it from the brink of extinction after replacing the thermal plates, and I paid $49 for that R9 390. And if you haven't seen that video, it's down in the basement. And if you're new to the inside the lab lingo, then you would know that the basement is a description box. But that video is down in the description box. I encourage you to hang out here still during this live event and check out some of the videos at the end of this live that's down there. Dark Super says, "Thank you, fam. It's no problem. My pleasure. Anytime." And he says, "Can you help me find a pretty good used RTX 2060 in i7 ninth or 10th gen, which is cheaper than its original price?" Well, the thing about Intel CPUs, um, it's the thing about Intel CPUs, they have such insane resale value. So getting one used, you're likely better off dropping down a generation, in my honest opinion, because a used 10700K, excuse me, or if you're looking for say like something a little more extreme with more cores, even a used 10900K is still going to be very close to new prices. Most sellers, when it comes to CPUs, you most likely see them wanting to sell the motherboard with the CPU. So that's one thing to consider. Me personally, I like picking out the motherboard. The motherboard one of the most one of the central parts to your system. Some would argue, well, the graphics card is. That depends on what you do, right? If you do anything that requires a heavy graphic rendering or image manipulation, then yes, a graphics card would be the most central part to your system. But the motherboard, no matter what you do on your PC, is going to be the most central part of the entire system, right? It's the motherboard, the name as the name implies. And in a used RX 2060, I mean, it really depends on your area, or if you're comfortable with saying buying a used RTX 2060, say off of like eBay, then that's an option, right? You could maybe check eBay. I would say I would pay no more, right, than like 329 right now for an RTX 2060. Somewhere between like 250 to 329 is a good price for RX 2060 right now. And Dark Super, if you got a little time to wait, you could say see what Nvidia does, because if RTX 3000 really brings the numbers that Nvidia is saying that we're going to get, this is one of the biggest generational leaps arguably since Pascal, right? That was it's funny looking face, but this is one of the biggest leaps since Pascal. They're toting up to 24 and like 45 to 50% of performance boost. Then that's insane. That's insane. But I tell you what, Dark Super, if you can, hit me up on Twitter, hit me up on Instagram. I would love to help you shop for one and go into more detail and possibly shop around to see how we could find the best, the best value for your money as we consider your budget and what CPU what CPU that finding a CPU that could handle the task that you need done. So if you want to game, if you want to stream, you want to edit photos, all those good things. Oh, I see. I got my boy Demetrius. What's up, friend? How you doing, man? Says just got walking in the snow. That mugger's co RT run the jewels. I like the quote, man. They're an awesome band, man. Dark Suit says you mind showing some right now. If not, oh good, I understand. If we got time short, I'll plug some in. I tell you what, let's jump over to our training scene, right? And I'm gonna go over to eBay. Let's go over to eBay and search RTX 2060. Yo, bro, what's up? What's up, man? All good in the neighborhood. It's good to see you, Demetrius. Thanks for stopping by. Definitely appreciate you. Definitely appreciate you hanging out with us. Definitely. So Dark Super, as you can see here, you have a, RTX 2060. So this is an add-in board maker. So a board partner graphics card, non-reference or non-founder, as addition graphics card. MSI. I love MSI's graphics cards. If you're no stranger to this channel, you know I've reviewed and I've recommended a lot of MSI products. Um, I also am a big fan of MSI Afterburner, one of my central tools to delivering benchmarks that are going to be as accurate as possible for everyone. That way you can encourage you, or you're confident. I'm sorry, or you're confident in your buying decision. But Dark Supers, you can see here, this is a sponsored post. I'm just gonna go ahead and jump onto this MSI Ventus XS RTX 2060. And 299. So I said I would stick to say 299 or 329, somewhere between there. And this one's coming at 299, which isn't isn't a bad starting point. And it has 6 GB of VRAM. It's faster than a 1660, right? Arguably faster than a 1660 Ti, but I mean you get ray tracing. If you're a fan of ray tracing, let me know. If you're in the chat or if you're watching on the replay, I gotta remember to represent for those on the replay. I know our live streams are long, but I do appreciate you stopping by if you're here on the replay. But if you're interested in RTX, and if you're not familiar with RTX, it's just Nvidia's term for ray tracing, which uses like tensor cores on these graphics cards. to simulate like real-time lighting and shadows. I did a video on it. You can find it on the channel. You can also find it down in the basement, which is the description box. You can find it down in the basement and watch it after this video. It's called RTX Explain, and we kind of go over some of at the time RTX was still in its infancy. We didn't have games like Control that was out. In my opinion, the best looking ray tracing game was Metro Exodus. To me, that game looked really good. But I mean, see, so you see, you have here, and this one's free shipping. That's another thing I try to look for when I'm buying a used graphics cards or any graphics card. Really, that's any part. To be honest with you, that's any part. Free shipping is just a bonus. It's just more money saved, more money you can put to another peripheral, or more money you can put in your system. But this RTX 2060, also comes with the box. I mean, personally, I like my parts with the box. You can see on the shelf there. I mean, I have so many boxes that you can't even see here. They're just all over the place. But I mean, this comes with the original box, all the original packing. Um, let's see if the seller, reputable seller, 98% seller rate. So they're good. And they give you quite a bit of description going into the parts or into the specifications. But this graphics card's 299. Let's look at some more. 329, right? If you this EVGA Shroud is awesome. I mean, I really like it. The backplate, this is a nice RTX 2060. VGA HDMI, so up to supports up to 3 monitors. And this is for 329. Free shipping once again. Might even be the same seller. I didn't notice, but I mean that one's 329. This one's so expensive. You notice here? Well, for one, it's a super variant, and it has 8 GB. So this price point, nah. Wait for RTX 3000. I would not buy this graphics card, in my opinion, at this price point. I would not. So as you can see here, most of them I see they're going for about 300 for the 6 GB variant. So I was kind of on the head. Said about two. I wouldn't pay between 299, 329. If I was in person locally and somebody was selling, I would try to settle for about 280. Wherever you can lower that price, it's just more money for you, right? It's just more money in your pocket. But just keep an eye out after the embargo is lifted for the RTX 3000 series. I am not going to get one, full disclosure, or at least let me put it this way. I'm not going to get one sponsored or sent to me for free. A lot of the popular YouTubers already done. A lot of or popular big tech tubers have already done their unboxing videos. You can check them out. I will likely do a reaction video or a follow-up video from my findings from the data I can accumulate from the RTX 3000 boatload of benchmark videos you're going to get hit with come Monday. You best believe it. It's going to be a lot of them. But if anything, I'm going to do a reaction video. I will get an RTX 3000 when they are available for us normies. I'm really concerned at the availability of RTX 3000. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. But there are some pros and cons to buying a used graphics card, right? The obvious is your value for your money. Similar performance to a new GPU for a fraction of the cost, right? For a slightly lower cost. That's price to performance. That's arguably one of the biggest pros to buying on the used market. And that's not just a graphics card. I've bought motherboards. I've bought CPUs off the used marketplace. I've bought power supply units. Uh, it's just I've saved so much money buying from the used marketplace. It's risk. Remember, it's risk versus reward. That's so important. Risk versus reward. But I mean, this enables you to put money into other parts of your system as well when you're able to do that. Dark Super says, "May I know what are the processor and GPU and cost for your own personal PC?" Well, my main one, my main CPU that I use likely 80% to 90% of the time, somewhere in between there because I mostly game on the system, and that's Snow White, which Snow White is due for an upgrade. I just haven't decided what platform I want to go with. But right now, I have a 8700K and an Asus ROG Maximus Hero motherboard, um, and 16 gigabytes of Corsair RAM. And on this system for the GPU, it's an MSI Gaming X Trio RTX 2080 in this system. So, and I love that graphics card. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have an RTX 2080 sitting right here. You might have recognized it from our latest video, but I was, believe it or not, because I game at 3440 by 1440, 100 hertz. An RTX 2080 kind of was more than enough at the time, but I just was reluctant to install the 2080 Ti, and then Nvidia dropped RTX 3000, and I am not in the salty crowd. In fact, let me be honest, the over exaggeration of people who bought RTX 2080 Ti's it's sickening, because I really feel like you didn't waste your money if you bought this graphics card within the last year. Your graphics card is not going to all of a sudden stop working once RTX 3000 comes out. The RTX 2080 Ti's are still going to be solid options for a graphics card, much like how we talked about with the 980 Ti. To this day, is still a capable graphics card. But that's what I have in my system. It's in a Corsair RX5 or yeah RX570 glass. I think I said that right. I always get the numbers wrong. But it's in the all tempered glass case. Snow White is due for an upgrade. I was looking at the 10900K, but then I saw the benchmarks, and AMD, we're going a little ahead of the live event, but AMD has their RDNA 2 launching on October 28th, along with Zen 3. So that's Ryzen 4000. So here comes Ryzen 4000 that is set to just continue to build on that 7 nanometer node. And we're expected to get slightly boosted in IPC, but also higher clock speeds. So, that remains to be seen what I update Snow or upgrade Snow White to. And then there's a matter of what do we do with the 8700K and the Asus motherboard. The 8700K is still a great CPU, and because I play or because I game at 3440 by 1440, my graphics card is doing most of the work. My CPU isn't really doing most of the work. But I tell you what, um, this combination is great, especially for when I'm editing videos, because we haven't got there up to 4K yet. I still edit in 1080p. 1080p is forever going to be in my heart, especially for video editing. Maybe we'll upgrade to 4K sometime next year, right? Slowly as the channel grows and we evolve and we get big, I just want to upgrade and evolve the content. Dark Super says, if you're looking to sell one of your RTX 2060s, let me know the price. If it's possible for my budget, I can look to buy it because you are a very trusted YouTuber, in my opinion. Thank you, and I really appreciate you saying that. I do try to be a no frills upfront, and I'm a little guy too. I was there. When I was young, right? I grew up. We didn't have much, right? Single mom, me and my sisters. We didn't have much. I couldn't really afford a computer. All my friends had a computer, the gateways and what have you, but I didn't. Not until I got older and I was a working young man, and I had the disposable income to do that. But we're not going down that path. Yes, I will keep you posted, Dark Super. Once again, make sure you hit me up at any one of these platforms up here, whether it be YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. And definitely lock in and keep in touch. Right? We can talk about that some more. But speaking of talking about, let's talk about the cons of buying new, because there are some. There are some cons to buying a used graphics card. One of the obvious are, well, you don't know if it's going to work. There's a chance that it may not work. I haven't had that happen to me yet, to know use to any of the used parts I use. I haven't had that happen to me, but it is a possibility. I want to make sure that it's clear. It is very much still a possibility that you can get hosed. With my guy over for Atekia City would like to say, Brian, you can get hosed. There's a possibility, like he recommends. If you can go to the seller's house, and that way they feel less inclined to want to beat you, is how we would say, here locally. They'd be less inclined to want to beat you because you know where they live. So, if they would refuse to give you money back, you pull up and say, hey, I'm outside of your house. You want to talk about it? You see, you sold me a part that you knew didn't work or that you knew was faulty. Can we talk about getting my money back? It's so much better when you can meet them at their place of residence as opposed to say, say a gas station. I want to say a GPU station. Gosh, that you can meet them a at their place instead of a gas station. So another possible con, which goes with getting a part that doesn't work, there's no warranty. Obviously, more than likely, chances are there is no warranty. I mean, we were just looking at a 980 Ti. There's no warranty on that graphics card. If you bought it today and you're playing some Fortnite, if you still play it, I haven't benchmarked it. I wanted to benchmark it in 4K. Maybe we still will, but it you can't. You can play when you're playing Fortnite. You don't want the card to just chunk out the next day. If you do, you're out of luck. You're out of a graphics card. You're out of what you paid for the graphics card. Then you're out of two times the money because here you go. You gotta buy a new graphics card. When you're buying like that on the used market, it's kind of as is. Especially if you get the part, you get it home and it's working, but 2 days later it stops working. 3 days later it stops working, or it starts behaving the way it's not supposed to. You're getting B sides, or you're getting black screens, random black screens, or random restarts. Your games are freezing up. All of those things. Those are very much cons. Something you have to look out for. Scammers too. Scammers and price hikers. In my 50 Facts About Me video, if you haven't seen that too, after this live event, check it out down in the basement, right? The basement is the description box. But one of the questions was, what what are some you don't like, and some to that extent about the industry or the community, and one of them I said was price hikers. During the GPU apocalypse, I had graphics cards I could sell at a price. I had two 1080 Ti's, a GTX 1080, a couple AMD cards. I had graphics cards that I could have sold that people would have paid more, nowhere near what they were worth, and I refused to. I refused. I knew people who said, "Oh, go ahead, you should sell some of them." No, I'd rather keep them, right? I'd rather keep them as opposed to selling them. And honestly, I don't like people up in the price, even if demand is if supply is low but demand is high. I'm not a believer of up in the price just just because that is the case. I very much would still sell the GPU at a respectable price, but I saw the value and saw that it was better to hold on to them, and I did, and I'm glad I did, because even then, once the market stabilized, Nvidia flooded the market with more graphics cards, and that's what we got. But yeah, I mean, so you have to look out for scammers and price hikers. People want to charge you more than what the graphics card is worth. You can always haggle. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. It's always good to ask. The worst possible case scenario is that the person tells you, no. That's the worst possible scenario, is that they tell you no. So always okay to haggle. I've haggled. I've asked for price drops. I've sometimes even looked. A seller would possibly say, "Hey, price is firm." That's telling people like myself, who's always looking to get a little bit of wiggle room, right? To try to save a little bit of money. Um, that is a deterrent for people like myself. So when I see that, if I think the price is fair, I'll go for it. Usually if the seller is saying, "Hey, this price is firm," they know they've done their research, they know what they have, they know it's worth, and they don't want to stoop any lower because they know they're already flirting with a tight profit margin on that sell. And if you're selling a computer part, the chances are you're not selling it for anywhere near what you paid for it. This RTX 2080 Ti is a $1,300 graphics card now. Unfortunately, thanks to RTX 3000 and Nvidia, it's worth, maybe it's going to possibly be worth what, $400. I mean, if you have $450 and you want to buy a graphics card and it's not, spoiler alert, an RTX 3070, get an RTX 2080 Ti, 11 gigabytes of VRAM. It's still going to be a great card. It's still very much a good 4K card, right? As you saw in the the 4K video I published last week, which I gave you a little bit more behind the scenes context on that. I wanted to open up in like a skit format, so um, I kind of experimented with that. So if you like it, tell me on that video when you go watch it. I believe that's down in the description box too, aka the basement. But I tell you what, let's jump right into the other big topic, and that's RTX 3000. RTX 3000, right? Nvidia went ahead and announced RTX 3000. We knew it was coming. We knew they were going to bring it, and they told us that we would get RTX 2080 Ti performance and an RTX 3070 and a new RTX 3070. That's a 499 graphics a $499 graphics card. At MSRP in the time of launch, the RTX 2080 Ti, I believe, was somewhere to the tune of $1,200 to $1,300. And so now Nvidia is telling us we're going to get better performance for less money. 3 gigabytes less of VRAM, but if you're at 1440p, 8 is going to serve you great. 11 above, when you're 4K and 8K with the presumably 24 gigabyte RTX 3090. But if you're at 1440p and 1080p, the RTX 3070 for a $499 graphics card is going to be a phenomenal, potentially in theory, a phenomenal graphics card for the money. We're talking half the price of the RTX 2080 Ti when that launched, and it has way more CUDA cores than an RTX 2080 Ti. I think the RTX 3070 is going to be one of the most sought. I said this earlier in the live stream, and I stand by it again. I really think the RTX 3070 is going to be a graphics card that's going to be so well sought that the supply is going to be very limited. It's going to be very limited. It really is. I really think it is. And then I mean with the RTX 3080, let's look at some of the specs here. I have the specs. Let's bring them up, right? Because they Nvidia has packed an insane amount of CUDA cores on these graphics cards. How Dark Super says, how old is your RTX 2060? You're going to sell? How much do you suppose you're going to sell it for? I haven't decided. Um, just looking at if I were to base it off of what's currently on eBay, it would be very much within that same ballpark, maybe a little lower, maybe a little high. No, actually, no, not higher. Maybe a little lower, but somewhere very much in between there. I am really seeing what the performance metrics looks like for RTX 3000, as I suspect, and not just in this case of this particular of the RTX 2060, but just the value in even say other RTX cards I have, and the 2080 and my 2080 Ti, my two biggest cards I use the most. What does that say for their value? Because the 3080 now, the RTX 3080, if we're looking at the specs here, and this is from Nvidia. The RTX 3080 has 8,704 CUDA cores. That's almost, I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot. Off the top of my head, I can't remember how much the RTX 2080 Ti, but it is more than that. It is more than that. Even the RTX 3070, right? And CUDA cores in a nutshell, crash course explanation on CUDA cores. They're similar to CPU. CPUs have cores too, right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. If you're on a Threadripper, then hey, you're like what, 12, 14, 16, 32, 64, something to that extent. Man, gosh, I love Threadripper. Be on the lookout for that OG Threadripper the second part trilogy to um, our upgrade path on X399. But CPUs have cores, GPUs have cores too. Nvidia just calls them CUDA cores. They're much smaller than CPU cores, so this is why they can put a lot more on there. They do not behave like CPU cores. They are only like CPU cores handle more than one task, so um, a whole bunch of unrelated tasks. But with CUDA cores, they are only responsible for rendering graphics. The more doesn't necessarily give you more frames, but it does improve things like lighting and textures and things of that nature. And look, RTX 30. I might be a fan of RTX 3080. Okay. It has 10 gigabytes of VRAM, which I don't. It's not on here, but yeah, it has 10. Oh, right here. Okay, I stand corrected. Here we go. 10 gigabytes of GDDR6 VRAM. Right. That's double. That's double the data rate. Right. So it's super fast DDR6X memory, 10 gigabytes. I mean, this is indefinitely now a 4K card, in my opinion, with 10 gigabytes of VRAM. Um, it. Do you play at 4K? 1080p is still the most widely accepted resolution. I doing the 4K video, I suspected it wouldn't get as much traction or interest because not a lot of people are interested in gaming at 4K. But really having 10 gigabytes of VRAM might even do you better at 1440p, 1440p like high ultra. I see this graphics card being able to kind of be up in the 120 range plus 120 hertz plus range. But that's insane. And I mean, let's talk price. $499 for the RTX 3070. $499. RTX 3080, $699. Right? So we're talking high end. I did a poll on our community tab to see how much interest you guys and girls have, the audience. That's who's important. To see how much interest we have in RTX, the higher end cards, not a lot, as most people agreed that it was just priced out of their budget. It was just a little too high, a little too out of their budget. 3070 maybe, right at 499. But then you have the RTX 3090, the Behemoth, however you say that word. It's a it's a beefy graphics card in both size, VRAM, 24 gigabytes of VRAM, 24 gigabytes. It's a $1,500 graphics card, but 10,000 over 10,000 CUDA cores. That's insane. I like to see how well this card, not me personally, like we won't test this in the lab, but I would like to see how this card does at 8K. Not a lot of people have 8K monitors. They're still very much expensive. But 20 that VRAM buffer, right, is just that's a lot of memory. You can load a lot of high resolution textures with 24 gigabytes of VRAM at resolution, say 8K, 4K, definitely. But I mean, the RTX 3090 is, in my opinion, possibly the Titan replacer, if you will. I've watched people mention that, I've watched people comment and mention that, hey, there's a large price gap. Hey, well, all right, welcome back, Dark Super. What's wrong with internet? Did you say how much you might sell it for? Again, it likely somewhere in between that 250 to 329 price range, somewhere between there. It really depends on, uh, really, in my opinion, RTX 3000 is going to set the precedent on how the used market, how, would just set the direction of the used market. But it'll be somewhere in between there. Because if we have an RTX 3050 releasing at, say, $300 and it's faster, you're not going to want to buy an RTX 2060 for that same price point. That's very important. That's why it's semi-important. I don't really preach it. This is why it's semi-important to kind of wait for the benchmarks. But yeah, I mean, if the 3050 and the 3060 comes and it's around the same price point, which we won't see them on September 17th. We're only going to see the RTX 3080, but like Nvidia traditionally does, they release the lower end cards a little bit down the road, along with the Ti variant. Although the 2080 Ti launched on day one with 2000 series, but it did not with Pascal, which hurt me because I bought a 1080 and then turned around and I bought a 1080 Ti like 2 months right after when it came out. But what does the RTX 3090 mean? Does this mean no Titan? Will there be no Titan XA? Right, A for Ampere. That is the name that this GPU architecture is named after. That Nvidia. Last one was Turing. They name their graphics cards off of renowned mathematicians and engineers. And this GPU architecture is named Ampere. His name that I can't remember his first name. But will there be no Titan X? Will there be a Titan XA? That'd be weird. Or Titan A, right? We had Titan XP, Titan X little p, then Titan X little big p. It was weird. Then we had Titan RTX with the $2,500 all gold Titan 2000 series Titan series. And here we are with 3000 series, and Nvidia hasn't said anything about a possible TI variant. And there's a large gap in price that hints at a possible TI variant. You heard it here first, Lab Rats, or I'm sorry, Lab Rats. That's what we used to call everybody back in the early days of the channel. But Lab fam, you heard it here first. I really strongly believe Nvidia is going to throw a wrench and release a RTX 3080 Ti with say, uh, my notes here, an RTX 3080 Ti with 16 gigabytes of VRAM, right? 16 gigabytes of VRAM, because also rumor has it that AMD is lock and load and ready to release their direct competitor to the RTX 3080. They did drop 16 gigabytes of VRAM in the Radeon 7, so it's a possibility. But I do believe that there's going to be a 3080 Ti with 16 gigabytes of RAM and about 9,000 CUDA cores, right? It'll be lower than what the 2080 Ti was, but probably about 10 to 15% faster, I reckon, somewhere between there. At least 10 to 15 or 15 to 20% faster at a lower cost. So about 1,000 to, let's say 1,000 between $1,100, somewhere between there, between 1,000 and $1,100 for the 3080 Ti. 9,000 plus CUDA cores, that puts it slightly past the 3080, and really, sets a really further distance from the 3070, but doesn't really put it in the neighborhood of the 3090, right? It still gives the 3090 its own um, its own kind of playing field. Dark Super says, thanks a lot. Again, it's my pleasure anytime. He says, hey, I've been here for 50 minutes. I have to get back to my studies. Sorry, gotta go. See you next stream. Peace, fam. Yeah, man. Thanks for hanging out. 50 minutes is a long time, and I do appreciate you hanging out with me here. We don't have much, but we're rounding up here, and I do appreciate you hanging out, Dark Super. But yeah, the next stream, we're doing this every Saturday. I'm playing with the times to see what's a maximum or a time that we can maximize viewership and get the most people in, and see what's comfortable and what's convenient for the majority of people on in our community. Normally, the first two live streams were at like 11:30. This one was 3:30. Next one we'll try to flirt with the idea, maybe like a later stream. But yeah, be on the lookout for that note. Thanks for hanging out. So yeah, and then possibly I also another for future prediction possibly. I also think we're going to get a 32 gigabyte Titan XA. If we do get a Titan, I'll say 32 gigabytes. Like wow, 32 gigabytes, 12,000 plus CUDA cores. It'll pretty much replace the Titan RTX and would just put this graphics card in a whole different playing field. It'll be cost lower than the Titan RTX, and what I'd imagine at least between $2,100 to $2,300. And again, over 12,000 CUDA cores, so just a very capable card to do a little bit of everything. And then there's NFL. See, I have football in mind. Then there's Nvidia DLS. I wasn't personally a fan of DLSS, excuse me, which stands for Deep Learning Super Sampling. It's Nvidia's AI that takes the base resolution and downscales it for to maximize your frames per second. So it kind of tweaks the resolution a little bit. It before first iteration of DLSS was really blurry. Nvidia touts that it's going to improve on it. If that's something you're interested in, you can look forward. I just feel like, in my honest opinion, if you're going to play at 1080p and you're getting good frames, and these graphics cards are fast enough, even 1440p, you won't really need to use DLSS. But features are great. They're there if you need them, and there's absolutely positively nothing wrong with that. But yeah, so I mean, these are the specs. We're getting so many more CUDA cores than we've seen in, say, RTX 2000. And it's important to note that NVIDIA tested the RTX 3080 with an i not a 10900K. Ah, goodness, a 10900K because some people suspected that PCI 4, if you're on like an older, if you don't have a Ryzen X570 and above motherboard, you're going to miss out on PCI Gen 4 and the benefits it presents. But Nvidia thought it was good enough to test with a 10900K. No reason why to believe we shouldn't think it's good enough as well. If there was a problem, they wouldn't have tested it there. But and it's a matter of the power connector because it is different. Nvidia's going with two eight, so that's 16. It's a 16 pin power connector. The reference models do come with an adapter, so that's a good thing. So you won't need to necessarily come out and buy a new power supply. You could just use the adapter. But two 8 pins, I'm very curious. I mean, look at the required, the recommended power supply. And they're telling you go with 750, 750 watts for the 3090, 750 watts for the 3080, a little lower, 650 watts for the 3070. But I mean, these are going to be some, it's going to be some hungry graphics cards, especially if you want to overclock. Especially if you want to overclock. But and then there's a matter of the cooler. The cooler. Excuse me. The cooler. I'm impartial to. I think it's okay. It's more so designed to with this unique design Nvidia has decided to go with, and that's to have the air, as you can see on the picture, right? The air to come through the air that's coming through the front of your case is going to shoot up with one fan that's kind of in the back, and it's going to immediately exhaust it out to the rear of the case, just like right there, boom, in and out. This should either improve temperatures or make it worse. I'm concerned if you're on an air cooler, as you can see by NVIDIA's illustration, that hot air that's going to get exhausted from the card is going to go right over your CPU heatsink and right out of the case. Normally, if you're on an air cooler, there's fan being blasted off here, and then you'll have a rear exhaust fan here also pushing the air out. But that hot air from the graphics card is going to push right over the CPU cooler and out of the case. Will this affect CPU temperatures if you're still using an air cooler, right? Especially if it's a big air cooler, if it's beefy, it sticks out a little bit. That hot air is going to pass right through the air cooler. Maybe all-in-one liquid coolers are going to be more popular, but yeah, I mean, I'm indifferent. I never really was a fan of the reference or founders editions of the graphics cards. They are good though if you do plan on putting them on a water block. It's good. They're normally binned better, which means they're cherry picked by Nvidia. They're the best of the best GPUs in terms of like clock speeds and efficiency. So you do get that benefit, but and you also get better water block compatibility as well when it's a founder card. Say one not one, not when it's a PCB specifically for a board partner to to work with their shroud, for example. So that's just one thing to consider if you do consider going with a reference RTX 3000 series graphics card. Is that unique cooler design Nvidia decided to lay out on us? Again, I'm indifferent to it. Not against it, but I am indifferent to it. We'll have to see how this benefits temperatures and to see if it's really adequate. But and then there's ray tracing. Again, I'm personally a fan of ray tracing. I thought ray tracing was an amazing leap in graphics. I am a graphic hog. I'm a graphic fanatic, guys and girls. I love, playing PC games. One of the things I like the most is the ability to choose how detailed I want my graphics. So, you can go from ultra, high, medium, depending on the game, to find a little bit of flexibility in frame rate and in graphics, right? In graphic fidelity. That's something we talked about in a 4K video a few times. But yeah, these 30 series cards are coming with more tensor cores. So theoretically that means better ray tracing ability. Better ray tracing. I welcome that. I welcome that, especially for what we're seeing at a lower price. This is good. I think ray tracing should be adapted more, so we can get them in more games. It's going to take them coming to consoles, which we'll get there in a second too. But it's going to take AMD to release a graphics card or a family of graphics cards that can handle ray tracing on a hardware accelerated level. So that means not using AI and tricks and gimmicks to implement ray tracing, but ray tracing on a hardware level, much like what Nvidia has done with the launch of RTX 2000. And again, I also pointed out that Nvidia is toting better DLSS, so if that's something you're interested in, we can play around with that in future tests. I didn't test it on any of the RTX 20 series cards I have. Again, I feel like if I'm playing at 1440p and I'm using the RTX 2080 Ti or even RTX 2080 Super, I don't need DLSS to give me a boost in frame rates. I just don't. I'd rather keep the true base resolution or the true graphic fidelity of the resolution that I'm playing at. So if that's 1440p, I'd rather not use AI to change the image for better frame rates. But again, options and features are good and they are there. But I'm a fan of ray tracing. I like ray tracing. I'm all for it. I said this um, when RTX came out and 20 series received a lot of flack. It was very expensive, I will admit. And this is why some 2080 Ti users are feeling a little bit burned because we paid a high a high cost entry to pretty much beta test new hardware. So, but if you can afford to upgrade yearly, go for it. Go for it. If you can afford to do it yearly, go for it. But should you upgrade? It depends. Should you upgrade? It really depends on your monitor's resolution. All right. Are you satisfied with your frame rates that you're getting with your current monitor? We talked about this in the 4K video. You can find that down in the description box, down in the basement. We talked about that in the 4K video. All right, it's really your monitor is very important. What resolution are you playing at? Most people play at 1080p, 60 hertz. Some, if you're on a competitive scene, maybe you're 144, 120. In that case, the graphics card you likely have now is more than enough. You may not even really need to upgrade. I say another prediction I'm going to make, and I talked about it earlier in the live stream, is that we wait and see if Nvidia drops the RTX 3050 and the RTX 3060. I suspect the RTX 3050 to launch somewhere between the 249, like we were talking to Dark Super, who's interested in buying a 2060. I think the 3050 and the 3060, it's their eventual successors to say the 1650 and 1660 Super or 1660 Ti and 2060. But I suspect the RTX 3050 will go for somewhere between 249 and 299, and the RTX 3050 for somewhere between about 329 and 349, somewhere between there. Like Nvidia wants to have an offering at that entry level so that they can stay competitive with AMD on the lower end scene, say in that $200 to $400 price point. So Nvidia definitely won't leave that space empty, right? They want to offer you something new and fresh at that price point. So I really suspect that they will drop those cards. We may not see them this year, but I really do believe that they will come. And speaking of budget graphics cards, we all know AMD. They are big on releasing products. We've seen it in Ryzen, but they're known for offering a similar product at a lower price point or with similar performance. And will AMD be able to compete with the RTX 3080? AMD hasn't launched a high-end graphics card like that since the 16 gigabyte Radeon 7 we talked about earlier in this live stream, which was about 679, and at the time its competitor, the RTX 2080, was selling for 699, and the Radeon 7 was still very much slower than the 2080, and it really was only $20 cheaper. There's not that much value there, even with the extra 16 gigabytes of VRAM. It just the value wasn't there. Most people still recommended the RTX 2080. Um, I too recommended the RTX 2080, or that you wait for at the time the 5000 series, and we waited for Navi, um, because AMD later discontinued the Radeon 7. Just to put into perspective, that they didn't have much confidence in the product either. So, and once again, if you are joining us late on the live, we are talking RTX 3000 and the pros and cons to buying a used graphics card. We talked about the pros and cons to buying a used graphics card early in this video, because as you can see here with our teaser on the screen, this is from the Nvidia RTX 3000 launch that Jing Hong, I think I so pronounced his name wrong, but the CEO of Nvidia did his presentation, announced the RTX 3000 graphics cards. They're here. We're seeing if AMD, and now we're talking if AMD is going to be able to compete with the RTX 3080, the 10 gigabyte, right, GDDR6X 8000 plus CUDA core monster of a graphics card for $699. Can AMD compete with it? And at what price point? Will we see an RTX 3080 competitor for half that price? All right, we talked about this earlier in the video, but a slight rumor mill. I don't like reporting on rumors. Normally, I don't anyway, but I don't like reporting on rumors. But rumor has it that AMD with RDNA 2, they're coming with a graphics card that's going to be either better than an RTX 2080 Ti. I know it's here's going to be last gen soon, but performance that's better than RTX 2080 Ti, or at about the same within margin, for $200, between $200 to $300. That's amazing. I mean, that's insane. That's great price to performance. Great price to performance. And that's just a starting point, right? We don't know if that's going to be the mid-entry level GPU from AMD or the high-end level GPU from AMD. You know, will that be the 3080 compete? We'll see. We'll see if AMD is finally going to break that barrier and give us a graphics card that is on the high end, like a true high-end graphics card, somewhere north of that 7 to 749 price range that is worthy to compete with Team Green. The 5000 XT series, they were a much better follow-up to the Radeon 7, right? That was the 7 nanometer Navi RDNA 1 that released back in July 17th, I believe. And the 5700 XT, it's a great entry level 1440p card. I think it's going some between $300 to $400, 8 gigabytes of VRAM. It's a decent AMD card that at the time more so was competing with like the 2060 and maybe the 2070, um, somewhere along there, because Nvidia also dropped the RTX 20, the Super Series, when Navi came out, just because they saw that AMD was once again offering similar performance at a lower price point than what AMD had at the time, which were just the first generation RTX 20 series cards. But uh, it's the 5700 XT was actually competing very similar to an RTX 2070 Super, which was about $100 to $200 more than a 5700 XT. And they were within margin, almost kind of hard, unless you wanted NVEC, and you wanted you wanted ray tracing. Then I obviously go with the RTX 2070 Super. But if you didn't care for those things, the 5700 XT was looking like a really good option. And even all the way down to the don't sleep on the 5500 XT. I know it got weird because the 1650 is a little super, but prices dropped to around 150 to 120. That's a good replacement if you love you some Team Red, or you have a FreeSync monitor and you want to stay on AMD's family, you want to stay on the Radeon family. Consider that 5500 XT. I really imagine those prices are going to drop if we get RTX 2080 Ti performance from, say, a $200, about a $200 graphics card. That's going to be insane. So RDNA 2 is set to come sometime this fall. In fact, just a few days ago, AMD announced that AMD announced just a few days ago that Zen 3 and RDNA 2 presentations are set for October. And I tell you what I plan on doing, I didn't do it with Nvidia's live stream, but I actually do plan on hanging out and with you guys and girls and uh watching Dr. Lisa Sue's AMD announcement on Ryzen Zen 3 and RDNA 2. We're going to do it live right here on Inside the Lab. So get subscribed if you're new here. If you are new here, I appreciate you hanging out here on the live stream or on the replay. Gotta remember to shout out our friends and fam on the replay. But be sure to get subscribed to look out for that notification when we schedule that, because the it's right here, the Ryzen presentation, October 8th, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So this is when we're going to, this is when we're going to learn more about Ryzen 4000, or AKA Zen 3, right? You got Zen, which was your Ryzen 1600, 1700, 18, those things. Then you had Zen Plus, which was a refresh, a slight upgrade. That was your 2700, 2600X, things like that nature. And then you had Zen 2, which was 3000 series, and that was 3700, 38, 3600, and the XT series that came out for whatever reason. But you had that family of CPUs with Zen 2. So here we are with Zen 3. It's hard to imagine. We're already on AMD's third generation or third iteration of the Zen, the Ryzen architecture, and we're getting 4,000 Ryzen 4000 CPUs. This is October 8th at 12 p.m. Eastern. So get your popcorn ready. Save the date on the calendar, because we are going to watch the keynote. We're going to watch Dr. Lisa Su and her cronies, her senior execs, talk about Ryzen 4000 in the future of the AM4 platform, and if we'll see an AM5 platform, or will they keep this on, AM4, and we might see new generation of motherboards. But it's exciting times. And then, as you can see here, next we have what we're going to see, RDNA 2 and the Radeon RX 6000 series graphics cards. That's October 8th at 12 p.m. So, I'm sorry, October 28th. Look, I wish they were on the same day, but I get it. We're gonna set time aside for both these days, Lab Fam. We're gonna watch this together, first and live. I'm going to give you my unscripted, reactions to performance numbers, to prices. I am not loyal to any brand. I am loyal to the wallet. That is the entity that matters the most, especially for this hobby. It is not cheap. And it is not cheap for me because none of my parts are sponsored. All my parts are bought with my hard-earned coin. Is another reason why I try to give no frills, honest reviews. I have no interest. My interest is making sure I provide an accurate, clear, uh, end user experience of a product, right? Graphics card, CPU, what have you. And not to detract, but we are going to see Radeon RX 6000 series graphics cards October 28th, 12 o'clock p.m. Get your popcorn ready, save the date, and be on the lookout for those live stream notifications, because we're going to watch this together. We're going to watch it together, Laugh Fam. As you can see here, we had Zen in the first and second generation, Zen 2, third, and now we have 7 nanometer Ryzen 4th gen 4000 series. I mean, it's coming. It's coming. And just to note, RDNA 2 is the same architecture that's going to be used on the upcoming PS5 and Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S. It is based off of Zen architecture, Zen 3 architecture CPUs. They're custom CPUs. They're custom CPUs for a reason. They're custom CPUs because consoles are cut down versions, first of all, of PCs. And so to compensate for the heat that you would get in the traditional computer case from, say, like an ATX motherboard, um, they use custom parts that don't draw a lot of power. Not as much power drawn means less heat, and to compensate for that, um, the makers they use custom parts. They use custom APUs and things of that nature. But it is based off of the Zen 3 architecture, and their graphics are based off RDNA 2. So the specs released for the PS5 and the specs released for the Xbox Series X. Um, they are consoles. I've always stood true to this. Consoles have their place. They have their place on the market, but PCs have personality. Consoles have purpose and those things, but computers just have personality. When you can just build a system and put some of your personality into the end results, you can't really do that with the console. But consoles are plug and play. So at the end of the day, consoles will always offer a superior value for the money because of what they cost. And now Xbox and Microsoft saying $299 um, or $499. I think the Xbox Series X is 4K 60 frames per second or up to 120 hertz. That's amazing. We'll have to see, how true that is, but it's an amazing piece of hardware in a tiny little package. But computers are still very much superior. They're very much superior in every other way. But consoles do have a purpose. They do have their place. But PCs, they just have personalities. But yeah, consoles cut down. They cut down for cooling and power requirements. This is why they use, custom components inside. But yeah, set your dates. We are going to be live streaming on October 28th and October 8th first as we get a look at Ryzen 4000, learn more about it. Hopefully, Dr. Lisa Su will give us some benchmark numbers. Normally, they'll do like a Cinebench run. So this is going to be interesting to see. This is going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see if they give us I don't know how much more cores they could pack, but we'll see if we get a lower price drop for more performance. But it's exciting times. It's exciting times nonetheless, right? But it's looking like it's looking like Ampere is going to be the biggest. I said this earlier. It's going to be the biggest jump in GPU performance in years. And even if AMD is able to compete with RTX 30 series, all Nvidia is going to do is drop a card, say like the 3050 or the 3060 that I predicted, priced very close or similar with more performance, right? I said what between 200 to 249 or something to that extent for a RTX 3050, right? It's like if AMD is going to give us a Big NAVI 6900 or 6800, one with 16 gigabytes of VRAM and another with say 11 or 12. I mean, it remains to be seen. It remains to be seen. But yeah, Nvidia, they like to do that. They like to step in and steal AMD's thunder once AMD is able to put out a graphics card that's, you know, good value for the money, good price to performance, getting the job done in 1080p. And then Nvidia would normally come in and drop a graphics card and just snatch that thunder right from AMD, right from AMD. So if you're an Nvidia loyalist, it pays that even if you're an Nvidia loyalist, it's good to wait to see what AMD does with its Big Navi and RDNA 2. October 28th seems. I know it seems far from. It seems far away, but it's come on, it's less than a month, right? Less than a month. We can wait. We can wait. And then even then, do note that we may have to wait until supply. We may have to wait until supply normalizes because normally after a GPU release, it normally takes a while. Once the reviewers and the testers and the pre-orders, it's normally difficult to jump on a graphics card at release. It normally is. It normally is. You get a graphics card with as unique as RTX 3000, starting with just how it cools. A lot of people are going to want to jump on it and upgrade. Just from what I've seen on forums and here on some of our community tab posts, some people aren't really looking to upgrade to RTX 3000. Again, you may not need to upgrade to RTX 3000. It may be good to wait to see if Nvidia drops a Super Series. We're on the cusp of one of the biggest GPU battles, one of the most competitive GPU battles in a very long time, and it's exciting times to be even a used PC enthusiast, and just be a PC enthusiast in general. We're in good times. We have new CPUs coming from AMD, on top of new graphics cards from AMD, on top of new um, new graphics cards from Nvidia. So it's it's a big generational leap over Turing, which I like Turing. I liked ray tracing. Um, it is a performance hawk. You did lose performance on first generation, but here's to Nvidia maybe getting that squared away, giving us more tensor cores, giving us more CUDA cores. Improved ray tracing is could definitely very much be on the horizon, and I'm excited to get some of these graphics cards. Nvidia or any of the big board partners, if you're watching or if you catch this on the replay, hit up Lab. I'd love to get one to review. If not, then we'll just buy one. We'll just buy one when they become available. I can't really see myself needing an RTX 3090. 24 gigabytes of VRAM is a lot. I know we did the video on the 4K monitor. Again, you can find that down in the description. It's where we picked up a 4K monitor off the used market for what I thought was a really good price. Again, check out the video down in the basement, the description box. Check out that video down there after this live event, or if you're on the replay, after you ingested enough of me talking, jump down in the description box. It's a great story. Picked up that graphics card, not the graphics card. I picked up that monitor uh, for an absolute steal, in my opinion. So, should you upgrade? Really depends. You may not even need to. You may not even need to upgrade. Um, Again, it's not like your graphics card is going to stop working once NVIDIA 3000 releases. Over time, you may start to notice a dip in your frames and a dip in performance, and some games may seem heavier to run as driver updates kind of driver updates introduce new optimizations and things of that nature. It may take a while, but depending on if you're on a 20 series cards and you're at 1080p, you really don't need to upgrade. I'd say upgrade your monitor, arguably first. Say 1440p, 120 or 144 hertz, ultra wide, right, or even 4K. I'd say upgrade that first. If you're on 1080p, maybe you don't need to upgrade. Um, so, but yeah, that'll be all for this one. I think that the ride is slowly coming to an end. Um, Thank you for all of those who came out and hung out with us during this live stream. Some of you aren't here, some of you still are. That's Dark Super. Pleb was here earlier. Um, Demetrius, that's Meat Pamp. 123. All you guys, thank you for coming out. Thank you for hanging out with me on this live stream. If you're here on the replay and you made it this far or you made it this long, thank you. Shout out to you. Wow. But if you're on the replay, thanks for watching the replay. Comment down below if you have any questions about anything we talked about during this live stream or any future questions you may have for another live stream. If you're on the replay and you're not subscribed to the channel, or if you're still here with us now live and you're not subscribed to the channel, I welcome you to do so. I publish weekly, and on top of that, we are introducing weekly weekend live streams into the content um, strategy. On top of that, there's some exciting new strategies that I plan on implementing to the channel. So I welcome you to follow along on that journey. But I'm going to go ahead and go. Thanks for hanging out with me during this YouTube live. I hope to catch you on the next one. So until then, be easy.